Hello, peaceful world. Here is another update from Ukraine from the perspective of an average citizen, a young mom, and her war baby. So, what is happening right now is me having a walk with the purpose of helping Mia fall asleep. But as you can see, that's not what's on her mind. Yes, my cutie pie. Will you do the cute things? Will ya? So yeah, I hope she will repeat it now. But she was smiling super broadly and making noises, and that was adorable. And I told her, Mia, let's share this. People need to see how cute you are. Mia? Хе. То моє сонечко. То моя зайка. Міка. Міка. Хе. Тобі вже не весело, сонечко, а чого? Чого? Все ж так само. Зайка, пішли гулять? Не пішли гулять. Гулять, розмовлять. Гулять, розмовлять. Yeah, so let's hope that she will produce something. But you know, babies are very unexpected and they never do what you want them to do. So it's fine, honey, it's fine. Actually, it's past your bedtime. I would say you've been active for like, I don't know, 2 hours. That's a lot. You're so tiny. You need your rest. Honey poo. Or not. She knows better, I guess. So yeah, you could hear me speak with her, and I was speaking Ukrainian because we are switching to Ukrainians with her. This is not an easy thing to do because for 30 years plus we were speaking Russian. But, you know, considering the circumstances, it's the only right way. And I guess I can tell you blah, 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 noisy, very noisy. That's my favorite coffee place. And that's me hiding, playing with her blankie. Oh, let's see. Maybe we'll be fortunate enough to capture her falling asleep. Let's see. Oh, but she should start crying before falling asleep. Are you playing there? Are you playing there? My little munchkin. Look at her. Oh, those babies. Those babies. Mika. Mika boo. Mika boo? Oh, sorry. Yeah. Looking at my baby and holding a phone is not an easy thing to do. So yeah. We speak only Ukrainian to her. We're considering using Russian only to berate her, you know, to raise this hatred towards the language, the culture, and everything. But in general, I find the language question quite, you know, controversial and difficult, and everything is not just black and white for me personally. Oh, let's take a look. You see, the lake is frozen partially. Some ducks are swimming, some ducks are on the surface. Yeah, that is a winter morning about 9 a.m. Yeah, hey, 8:30, I guess. Pikamu. Such a funny kid. So yeah, what's my language history? If we go back to my grandma's youth, she was born in the village and she was speaking Ukrainian in the village, of course, but at the time in the Soviet Union, speaking Ukrainian was not cool. You know, you could be mocked for speaking it and get in all kinds of trouble. So, and of course, everybody's dream was to move to the capital, to Kiev. This is where we are. And when my grandma and my grandpa moved to Kiev, they kind of switched to Russian. I cannot call the Russian like perfect Russian. There is this thing called like Surzhyk. Surzhyk is, let's say, like a dialect of Russian, of a language. And so the Russian does not have all the proper sounds, and there may be a Ukrainian word thrown here and there, but it was the first step because Ukrainian was not cool at all. When my mom was growing up, so she was already raised in a family speaking something like Russian, and she was communicating with people who spoke Russian. And her school was Russian, so everything was Russian. It was still Soviet Union, and Ukrainian was not cool again, still not cool. And yeah, she became a Russian-speaking person, and I would say that my mom is really heavily Russian-speaking person because when she tries to speak Ukrainian, it's a challenge to find words instantly, and you can tell that her mind races in Russian. And yeah, as for me, I was born the year of our independence, 1991, the independent Ukraine. So all of my institutions were already using Ukrainian, and even though I was speaking Russian in my family, in my kindergarten, everything was in Ukrainian, and I picked it up with no effort. It was kind of a bilingual thing. I think they call it this way now, right? But it was so natural. It wasn't a problem at all. I just learned using two languages. I lived using two languages: Ukrainian for kindergarten at school and university, and Russian for my regular life because that was still somehow more common. I think Ukrainian was also not cool in my school. I have vague memories. I don't remember us like torturing anyone, making fun of anyone speaking Ukrainian, but there were hardly any people like this. And yeah, those people definitely stood out somehow. And I think in my adolescence, it was already cooler. And when you encountered such people, which was happening more and more often, you kind of felt respect for them. And I remember I had those dramatic teenagers' moods of depression and deep philosophical questions and so on. And patriotism was one of them. And I was trying to speak Ukrainian, and actually, from my perspective, from a creative perspective, I have this, creative mood at times, and I like writing. When I write, if it's not English, it's Ukrainian. I prefer to write in Ukrainian. It is more beautiful to me, more expressive. I like the way it sounds more, and my mind works better in Ukrainian, actually, creatively. Even though there were quite a few years in my life when I didn't use Ukrainian at all. After my university, there was no need. In my family, with my friends, it's Russian. Still, if I want to write something now, I switch to Ukrainian. That just feels better, feels good. Oh, that is adorable. That is adorable. A few adorable things are happening here. My baby is falling asleep, has probably fallen asleep already. And look at the duckies and the lake. That is a cute morning. Yeah, and maybe I will try to show you myself. We'll see. We'll see. Let's test it. Let's test it. So I hope you see me. That's something else. So yeah, where was I? So yeah, I knew both languages, but Russian was the go-to language, and my relationships with Ukrainian were, unclear, let's say. And as for my country, the question of the language was always used. I don't know. It was something people seemed to argue about, but now I'm not sure whether it was something people really genuinely argued about, or it was just some topic, some publicity stunt in the media used by some politicians. Really, I do not know. But from my life experience, speaking only, about my experience, my perception, my view, not in general, because our minds are very different in the minds of Ukrainians. So people from the east and south mostly spoke Russian, always. People in the west mostly spoke Ukrainian. And I remember the first time I came to the West, it was the first course of my university. So I was 17 or 16. It was a short drinking trip with my friends. I have very few memories about it because I was so hammered. I could barely walk. I don't know how I survived those years. But what I do remember is that for me it was like traveling to a different country because everybody spoke Ukrainian and the pronunciation, the vocabulary, it was all new to me and it was beautiful, it was marvelous. It was like I was touching something, yeah, something new and so marvelous, and it was fun to like make an order in a shop and we switched to Ukrainian and it was like a game, like, oh, I'm using Ukrainian not in the university but in like real life, you know. And I remember when we took a tram and the driver said like "Proszę." It was a word I never heard in Kiev, you know, like I saw it in books, I heard it maybe somewhere in the news, but it was this natural habitat of the word and it felt amazing, it felt delicious. And in general, someday when Ukraine is peaceful again, if Ukraine is peaceful again, come to Lviv. It's amazing, really. It's one of my favorite cities in the world. I would actually love to live there even instead of Kiev for some time, maybe someday, who knows. Because it's super Ukrainian, it's super delicious. There are so many restaurants. They serve whatever your heart desires, whatever your brain can come up with, and more. It's unbelievable, really. I adore that city. And yeah, so and for me back then, it was this trip to Ukraine, kind of, because in general, still in Kiev, everybody spoke Russian. And that's where we are. And if somebody asked me, how do I feel about, oh, it's doggy time. Oh, you will see so many cute dogs. They should be behind me right now. Let's pass this one. Ah, that's my favorite time. Yes, that's what always makes me go back to doggies. Look at them. I will turn around. I hope you can see some there. That is super cute. Love doggies. Now you will probably see my nostrils because my hand is too tired from holding my phone above my face. But I noticed that the nostrils are appalling. Really, it's disgusting. I probably have some mucus and boogers already. You know, it's runny because of the weather. But anyways, so yeah, Kiev was mostly Russian speaking, and if somebody asked me how I felt about the language question, it was not a question for me. I was like, well, I can speak Ukrainian or Russian or English. Now a bit of Spanish as well. Buenos dias. And it's not a problem for me. It doesn't like make me like or hate people. It is just a means of communication, and whatever helps us achieve our goals faster, that language should be used, in my opinion. And that's about how I felt, you know, about it. But now I'm reconsidering my convictions, and I think that language is one of the primary aspects of our culture, right? It's what distinguishes us from other people, other countries, and I guess Ukraine does need the Ukrainian language has been neglected and treated very, very unfairly for many years. Like the story of my babushka, of my grandma, is very sad. And actually, I think maybe 4 or 5 years ago, I somehow, you know, this memory came to me about her language history. And I was so touched, and I was like, fuck, we should try to speak Ukrainian at least once a week at home. I just had this idea. And we tried, but not very enthusiastically, and it all died out. Now we regret this a bit, but it's okay. It's never too late, right? You know. Now we have the added motivation, of Russians who kill my people, who may kill my husband. I don't know, my students. So now it's easier to do the switch. And I'm not good at history. I'm a simple, silly woman. That's all. I'm not good at politics. What do I know? I know cats and dogs and some English and how to cook solyanka. And my perspective is primitive in many ways. It has been. But from a historical point of view, this neglect of the Ukrainian language, it was not just a neglect, it was an attack from the Russians. It has been on for centuries. In the Soviet Union, even in the independent Ukraine, there are still pro-Russian politicians, parties, they have some authority. It's a very long, confusing, and sad story. So, yeah. That's it. That's why we're speaking Ukrainian to me, yeah? And it's fun. It's getting easier and easier. I still kind of resistant to it because I am that kind of a person who hates doing something because you must do it. And once the war started, there was this mood in the society, like you must speak Ukrainian. And there were fantastic, friendly, supportive Ukrainians who supported those switching from Russian. And there were those assholes who were like correcting you and still hating you, even though you were trying, and people were trying to speak Ukrainian. So it's not so easy. And for me, it was hard because I work with the language. I work with English, and I like it when it's perfect. I'm not saying that my English is perfect. I think that's not possible because it's not my native tongue. But, that's what I do for a living. I correct people's language mistakes. I see them. They hurt me. When I read a book in English, it's like a masterpiece to me. It's so, I don't know. It's so tasty. I can play with the word. I feel like I'm almost touching it, and I get so much pleasure and joy out of it. I actually literally melt when I meet native speakers because they speak the language of my love. Like if you ask me, I would prefer to speak English. That's all. And it says nothing about my attitude to Russia or Ukraine. This is my language preference, my language of choice, the language of my heart. So yeah, when I was switching, I felt that I lacked words and I felt that I made mistakes. It made me so pissed. And I was actually one of those asshole Ukrainians who criticized people speaking bad Ukrainian. Like there is Ukrainian that is, let's say, Ukrainian with some mistakes, and there is this overly Surgic kind of Ukrainian, which I absolutely hate. It sounds, I don't know, stupid. Just stupid. I just don't like it. I like this language the way I hear it in literature or, I don't know, in the media. I do not like this super simple tongue. It's my personal asshole-ish perspective. So I was struggling because I felt that I had to do it, and I faced my own mistakes, my own challenges, and I still do not speak Ukrainian with all of my friends. I think I'm the last one, and I think I also deserve that because, whether it's good or bad, Russian is the language I have been using for so many years. It's a part of my identity. There are things I still like in Russian, like Russian poetry. I don't know, the poetry which does not mock Ukrainians, poetry about love that has nothing to do with countries, because now it's not popular to like Russian literature as well, of course. And yeah, but with Via, it's super easy. I don't know. She is a clean slate. and it's easier to do something from a clean slate with her me too. And yeah, and I need to speak more English to her. Anyway, she's surrounded by English because we watch everything in English, and sometimes she may hear me work in English, but she needs more English in her life. And she will be my bilingual person, at least. I assume she will also know some Russian, and I think that's not too bad. I think it's very beneficial to know the language of your enemy, you know. There have been a lot of those videos with those jokes with Polonitsa, you know, kind of things, because we get Russian perfectly well. There is no chance that we can mistake some word for another word. No, we know it. We're absolutely fluent in it. And being fluent in the language of your enemy is good, guys. It's really good. So maybe I even want her to know. Oh, sorry, you can see Ronnie disgusting. Look at the sky while I'm cleaning my nose. It's beautiful. Yeah, so maybe I want her to know the language of the enemy. I will not teach her it, but I think she will acquire it naturally. It is still spoken everywhere. So yeah, somehow the video ended up being, you know, about languages. Somehow, I just wanted to show you my cute little pumpkin who is sleeping soundly. Mama's dreams come true. Why is it so unclear? Oh, that sucks. Anyways, I can see that this video is taking super long, so I'm gonna wrap it up. And yeah, have a nice day. Speak any language you want as long as it is safe. See ya.